Hey guys, it's Drew again. They say if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And while that most of the time talks about a purchase or some kind of a deal, I find it also has to do with stories. Stories that sound so good and juicy, we often repeat them to where they just become fact. Well, there's two that I want to talk about today within the vintage world. Stories that I've heard many a time. In fact, I've repeated them. And probably you have too. You want to find out what they are? Let's check it out. So, two stories within the vintage community that I know you've heard before. In fact, I almost guarantee you've repeated because they just sound so good. But I'm going to be honest, I don't believe them. The more I've thought about it over the years, they just don't add up. The little facts and little things, and it's not that I'm always pessimistic or a doubter, but sometimes I wonder, are these stories told because it's so good to be true, or maybe that's it? They're just too good to be true. Now, I'm going to be honest up front. I can't prove, I have no actual solid evidence to say that these stories are false, but it's just kind of the way it goes. So the first one is, and it's the title of what you saw in the thumbnail, your mom didn't throw out your baseball cards. In fact, nobody's mom did. Well, that's not true. Yes, moms did throw out some cards. Cards were definitely thrown away. But the story kind of goes like this. You hear people say, well, imagine, if if I still had all those cards when I was a kid. And then people say something like, well, if they still were around, they wouldn't have the same kind of value because, the whole supply and demand. Well, I got to be honest. As I go around to shows, and I don't care if it's the National with literally thousands of tables and billions of people, or at least that's what it seems like, or some small little show in a shopping center with 4 tables, every show I've ever been to in the decades I've gone to shows, I see a vintage card. They are actually really, really common. They are way out there. So the title of this thing, it's not your mom's fault Mickey Mantle is so expensive. But we kind of make that. It just sounds really interesting. It sounds so good. Like, well, yeah, because all these cards got thrown away, that's why the value within this vintage world is so much higher. And the truth is, well, I don't believe that. They're everywhere. It's not that you can find a Mickey Mantle, let's say, or a Hank Aaron or Roberto Clemente or any of those guys from the golden era. It's not that you can find them because they're common. It's you can find them any grade you want. Listen to yourselves as you make a video or watch videos on YouTube. Well, I really like centering, so I'm going to wait for the right copy. Or I really like the color, so I want these colors to go. Or I really want to make sure that the corners are sharp or the edges or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with however anybody chooses to collect as far as condition, centering, or anything else. But the point is they say that because they have those options. I was actually at a show a few weeks ago, standing next to a guy, and the guy said, hey, can I see that card? He was looking at a Willie Stargell. I think it was a 64 Willie Stargell. And he pulled it out, and he said, hey, I'll make you a great deal. He goes, nah, I'm looking for one for a little more centered, and put it back. No big deal. Well, I mean, that's fine. He was looking for it, but the reason he's looking for one is because he'll find one. It's out there. Lots of cards are out there. Not just thousands, millions of cards are out there. So what happened to all these cards that were produced? Well, some of them were thrown out for sure, but a lot of them were saved or passed around. I mean, Chris from Missouri tells a story. His very first video talks about he used to cut some lady's grass in his yard and she paid him with her son's baseball cards. They got used. They got moved around. They were traded and held onto and put in collections. They're out there. Where I feel that cards were actually gotten rid of was during the war, when there was huge paper drives. That's where all the pre-war cards went. I mean, yes, there's still a lot of pre-war cards out there, so imagine how many were actually printed. But, for us to say that cards are high value and they're more expensive during that era because they all got thrown out by mom, I just don't believe that. Yes, some got thrown out, but there's a lot more out there than we want to think. I mean, again, you can go anywhere. Right now, you can think of any mainstream card, Topps, Bowman, Leaf, I mean, even the expensive one, rookie cards and all this other stuff, and go on eBay and you will find a number of any one of those cards for auction or for sale, not maybe at good prices, but you can find them at any point. Why? Because they're out there. They're not that scarce. They're not that rare, and it's not because your mom threw out your cards. So I just don't believe it. It just makes it sound good, like it sort of justifies. Mickey Mantles are so expensive because there's less of them. But the truth is, I think they're way out there. I mean, tons of them. You can look at pop reports if you want, or just go look at the evidence. When you go to any show, the pop reports don't show all the raw ones, and you can go to any show and see table after table after table of raw of anybody you want to see out there. the cards are still out there. They didn't all get thrown away. Some did for sure, but not all of them. So my second one, and this is the other one, and it has to do with Mickey Mantle and throwing it away. I don't believe for a second that Cy Berger dumped into the ocean all of those high numbers from 1952 Topps. There's no way that happened. There's absolutely no way. I mean, 52 Topps, and you can go through the thing, but think about what we know. Cy Berger, he was a salesman. He was pushing his company. He tried very hard and successfully to make Topps the king of baseball cards and all sports cards. And he was a showman. He was like the P.T. Barnum of baseball cards in the mid-century. And this story didn't even start. He mentioned it in an interview in 1975. Not years before, not when people were buying cards, not when kids were buying cards. It wasn't some part of a thing. He mentions it. Why does he mention it? Well, guess what was happening in 1975 in the mid-70s? People started paying for cards. Well, what cards did they want? They wanted Topps. He only made money one time on a card when the pack was sold. After that, it doesn't matter what happened to the card. He didn't make any more money because that card had been sold and resold over years. He made it one time. So how does he make more money? He sells more cards. How does he sell more cards? He makes up a good story. Oh yeah, the 52 Mantle, the high numbers, they're short printed and all this other stuff. I had them for years in a warehouse, and then suddenly one day I decide I'm going to take them all because we need the space, load them on a barge, take them out to the ocean or the river, depending on which interview you listen to, and dump them. Well, here's what I do know. There's never been any evidence found, not of cards, but from sales or any paperwork from Topps saying we rented a barge. Well, what did he do? Find some pirate captain in the middle of the night and pay him with bad bubble gum and say, hey, will you dump these cards for me? No, I don't believe they were, because I don't think they printed as many as that they said. They may have been burned. They may have been thrown away. They may not even have been existed. But the point is there's a lot of those Mickey Mantles or any other high numbers out there. Maybe not as many, and they are more scarce than other cards. But dumped in the ocean, it's just too good of a story to not tell. But I bet you've told it before, because it is a good story. I don't think he did it. So what do you think? Do you think Mom threw out your baseball cards and that's why the values are so high? Or do you think maybe that just sounds good and sort of helps justify the fact that we're spending real money on baseball cards from a certain era? What about Cy Berger? Do you think he was full of it, or do you think he really dumped them in the ocean? Do some research and find out, because you know what? It's never been proven one way or the other, but for me personally, I think it's bogus. Doesn't really matter if it's true or false. But just remember, sometimes a story is great. And coming from a guy who's known as a storyteller, yes, I don't know if I'd tell it lies or make up stuff, but some of those stories, if you embellish it and you get really excited about it, people tend to listen to it. In fact, you've listened to this story today. Am I telling the truth? I guess we'll never know. Anyway, appreciate you guys joining as always. And until next time, you guys be good.